ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia. Welcome back to Durian ASEAN. You're with Grace at ASEAN Dailies, where we deliver news from Southeast Asia. Well, let's talk about what's been happening in Hong Kong, and then you talk about the tensions that has been sort of highlighting in that country, and it's been a year since all these mass rallies that happened. So if you remember about these yellow umbrellas that people did protest, and this was quite phenomenal in the regional areas, and apparently 500 protesters gathered near the government headquarters to mark 1 year since the huge pro-democracy rallies brought parts of the Hong Kong to a standstill. So these yellow umbrellas, and of course they also the makeshift tents were back in the central Hong Kong, which was just on a Monday, and all these protesters gathered a year to the day. But when you talk about the crowds, there are thousands of crowds there. The increasing number of crowds, the turnout was a reflection of the movement, the loss of momentum after failing to push Beijing into allowing these fully free leadership elections. So if you talk about the last year 2014 protest, which lasted for more than about 2 months, tens of thousands are regularly gathered to demand a political reform. But however, until now, despite these unprecedented rallies, which garnered extensive coverage across the world, protesters were unable to force the change. And of course, they are very frustrated, and they are saying that they need to regroup and also come up with the new sort of strategies. And people want changes in Hong Kong desperately, and also to change the mindset of Beijing and also Hong Kong government is currently sort of hopeless task at the moment. And around 500 protesters they gathered at the formal main rally site in the financial district of Admiralty on a Monday afternoon. And of course, there are pictures that's been going around on social media, especially on Twitter. And these protest leaders, they encouraged the crowd to fight on. And they said the authorities will still be against us, but that doesn't mean we will give up. So some protesters also expressed their anger at the lack of progress. And they also mentioned that we have not achieved universal suffrage. And she was the woman in her 30s. And also the other people also strongly suggest to just go on, do not give up on this hope that it can still be changed. And this protest began after basically China's central government mentioned that it will allow a popular vote for Hong Kong's leader in 2017. But of course, the insisted candidates were vetted after all. So this rally and the people, the spirit there, with the holding yellow umbrellas, it will still be going on. And of course, their goal in the whole movement, starting from Occupy Central, is to awaken the general public of Hong Kong to the importance of this democracy that they have been practicing and that they also want to maintain. So we call it the umbrella movement. It became quite more serious unrest in the city China took it back from Britain in 1997. So that was the anniversary, and of course people still in Hong Kong, they are very worried about the government also not being able to practice the true meaning of democracy. So we'll do follow-ups after next week and see how it goes like. So moving on to next news about Haze. Well, Haze in Malaysia, not only in this country, but talk about Singapore and Indonesia as well. However, according to the minister, Haze is expected to lessen this evening, and perhaps it will be quite a positive news to all the populations in Malaysia especially. And Science, Technology, and Innovation Minister Datuk Marias Tangao said Malaysia would experience the winds and also weather prevailing during monsoon season, and also that will probably ease the the haze, the pollution at the moment. And also, the direction of the wind has caused the country to experience a cross-boundary haze at the same time. But Malaysia is still faced the risk of this cross-boundary haze returning if the wind direction was from the south and southwest. So there is still this to be clarification, but at the same time, when it comes to haze, a lot of people are worried. So, but still, do take care of yourself. Do not forget to wear a mask and drink lots of water. So let's talk about perhaps USA this time. So Obama is willing to work with Iran, Russia, which is to end the Syria conflict, which is pretty serious problem in the European countries at the moment, because a lot of refugees have fled into Germany, and Syria has its own civil conflict still going on. And the president of the US, Obama, of course, he is willing to work with this country to try to end the Syrian conflict. And Barack Obama said on Monday, but insisted that there could not be any return to the status under the Syrian president Bashar al-Assad. And of course, speaking to the UN General Assembly, Obama described Assad as the tyrant and also chief culprit behind this 4-year civil war, in which at least 200,000 people have died, and was millions have driven from their homes internally or abroad as refugees, and it has also caused quite a bit of a problem in European countries. So having this voice, a willingness to deal with Iran and Russia, this both the backers of the Assad, Obama was openly acknowledging their influence in Syria and also swallowing the somewhat a bitter pill for the United States. So he's scheduled to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin later on the side of the gathering for talks that could provide some hint on how it may be possible to end this conflict that has defied years of diplomatic effort. So that's it for the breaking news as well as updates. We will continue after this short break on the political side of Southeast Asia, so stay tuned.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Duriana ASEAN. You are still with Grace at ASEAN Dailies. We deliver news from Southeast Asia. Well, let's continue the news with Haze. So there is a comment and also the news of coming all the way from Indonesia that they are trying their best to sort it out, especially towards the Singapore and Malaysia's understanding of its effort to tackle the problem of haze, which has become quite serious already. And Chief of Staff in office in Indonesia, Teten Maduki, was quoted by the local news portal that haze problem could not be overcome very quickly because of the areas under fire at oil palm plantations, and also these forests were very large. Well, he also honestly confirmed having received the notes of a protest from Singapore and Malaysia on the haze, which was related to the burning of forests in the Sumatra and Kalimantan as well. So the Indonesian government was not keeping quiet about the fires and was taking numerous initiatives to ensure that they did not recur in the future, because haze has always been a problem, especially these 3 countries, and mainly because of the slash burned forest as well as palm oil plantations. And he also added that Singapore and Malaysia had been enjoying the fruits of Indonesia forest, not just raw materials but also forest industry products. So Indonesia had also contributed oxygen to these 2 countries. Well, this looks a sort of contradicting because Indonesia wants to show that they have been putting efforts, but the Singapore and Malaysia, they also have been putting an effort to reduce the haze problem. But the root cause of this haze problem, it all comes from the Indonesia. Of course, Indonesia is not at fault entirely, but at the same time they're also expressing sort of their concerns as well as how they have been trying their best to overcome this problem. And it was reported that Singapore would be taking legal action which could result in the heavy penalties against the Indonesian companies which burned their plantations and also forests, resulting in an unhealthy air quality in the city-state. And of course, Singapore government in a statement recently, 5 Indonesian companies, including multinational Asia Pulp and a paper, was set to receive the notices of legal action. So Singapore, Indonesia has been taking things very seriously, and perhaps that's why it sort of gave the alarm call to Indonesia to cope up and also come up with the immediate solution to this haze problem, which has been affecting the regional, especially Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. Well, moving on to next news about the PM of Cambodia. Apparently, he addressed the gender equality. Prime Minister Hsien pushed for this gender equality and also women's empowerment. And also he mentioned that the year 2015 is historical, marking an accelerated progress towards gender equality as well as women's empowerment. And this meeting will serve as an important platform for them to use and also to further tighten their efforts and resolve to achieve gender equality and make this target become a reality for women and as well as the girls across the world. So PM called on the world leaders to increase the investment in this particular area, gender equality, and this is to ensure the protection of women's rights and also promote the full and equal participations of women in decision making at all levels, and of course to strengthen this accountability mechanism for gender equality, and also lastly to continue to encourage women's involvement in the economy. So perhaps it's a time really for women in Cambodia especially to stand up and be able to come up and also push themselves to contribute to the society and in further to the nation as well. So he has been criticized for using this derogatory language to refer to women in here. So it was just a couple of months ago that it has to be just standardized, and also there are certain words that should not be used, and that could be just a sexist language here. So this is pretty a positive news coming all the way from Cambodia, and the nation does not fare well on the international rankings of gender equality at the moment. And in fact, last year the country was ranked 108 out of 142 countries in the Global Gender Gap Index. So this is very important, that it's good to propose these plans, but they also have to see how concrete they can be in the future. So let's move on to the next news about Prime Minister Hsien Loong, all the way from Singapore. He announced the Singapore's new cabinet. So there are a total of 20 ministers that were named in the cabinet, and this is the introduction of 3 coordinating ministers, Teo Chee Hin, Tharman Shanmugam, and both whom they will remain as DPM, as well as Khao Phu Wan, who will concurrently will be the new transport minister. So just to give you the new updates, you can just simply visit their website or just Google, and then you will see the new the cabinet, the names and also their designations. So they Mr. Lee shuffled his team 2 weeks after the PAP took almost 70% of the votes in general election. And the Prime Minister campaigned upon the lead of this strong cabinet in Parliament to ensure the leadership renewal. And of course, I just mentioned about the 3 coordinating ministers, and there will be a new acting ministers, new office holders as well. So those who are new to the cabinet are acting ministers Ng Chin-mek and also the Ong Ik-kun, who's the higher education and skills, and other existing ministers, those with the change of portfolio, including Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, in charge of foreign affairs, Mr. Shanmugam, Home Affairs, Mr. Hung Swing-king, Finance, and Mr. Lawrence Wong, National Development, and then Mr. Masagos Zulkifli, Environment and the Water Resources. So those are just a few updates on the ministers and also reshuffle in Singapore. So this is just the last news before we take another short break. So in Philippines, Poe leads the race, and also Senator Grace Poe retained the lead in the latest presidential preference survey conducted by the Post Asia. And this survey was conducted last September, and it showed that Poe leading the race with the 26% of voters saying that they would vote for her if elections were held just today, and she's followed by the former chef Mar Rojas with 20%. So there has been a sort of update on this preference towards the election, and of course Poe and her running mate Hsien, Francis Escudero, are also leading the contenders in the 2016 vice presidential race, and the survey showed 24% of voters picking Poe for this VP, followed by the Escudero with the 23%. So there will be more analysis coming from the Philippines. So let's keep our eyes on the this analytics results after all. So we'll take a very short break. When we come back, this time we will be discussing on the economic side of Southeast Asia. So stay tuned.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with Grace at ASEAN Dailies. We'll deliver news from Southeast Asia. So we are at the segment of discussing and also commenting on the economic side of Southeast Asia. So let's travel to Thailand, where that country exports in August contracted for the 8th straight month. And also there are more evidence in the trade economic remains sort of mired in the after more than a year of military rule, and that they've also been struggling to regain this momentum since the army seized the power in May 2014 to end months of political unrest. Although last year's coup restored some stability, also exports and the domestic demand, but still it still remained weak economically. And when you talk about exports, in last month in August, it slipped 6.69% from a year earlier, while import declined about 4.77%. And also the Commerce Ministry, he mentioned that both figures were about twice as bad as forecast. And in fact, the numbers are lower than the market expectations. Also, the estimates indicating there is no export recovery in the near term. Apparently, if there is no sign of recovery in the coming months, there is a chance that the exports may contract more than the Bank of Thailand forecast. So, at the moment, the Thai exports expected to shrink for the third year running in 2015 in spite of the weaknesses in the baht. Also, of course, in Thailand is one of the countries and the currency is also affected. That currency has fallen 9.3% against the US dollar so far, and the central bank last week forecast that exports will shrink 5% this year, and that it is the biggest fall since 2009, of course. And apparently the ministry blamed on the slow global economic plus this low oil and also commodity prices as the main factor of this August poor exports. And Ministry of official Somkiat he mentioned that it was difficult to predict how exports will perform, but also said that there was reason to be optimistic. So they are hoping that automobile shipment will increase. Well, judging from the surge of more than 40% in the import of car parts, exports usually followed imports within 1 or 2 months. So they are still keeping their hopes in terms of economic in Thailand, and hope that not only Thailand but throughout the Southeast Asia, all of the nations can boost up their economic strength in this time. And just to the additional information on this is August exports to China rose 0.4%, while shipments to Japan fell 6.7%. So exports to the Europe declined also 2.3%, and those to the United States dropped by 1.9%. So there has been a lot of dropping in terms of exports from Thailand, but hoped that a little bit of ray of hope that we can keep in terms of boosting up the currency as well as to the rates of the exports from the country. Well, talking about Indonesia, the Trade Ministry AEC Center apparently aims to educate business as regional integration is coming very, very soon. So AEC Center is very much needed in Indonesia, and this way everyone can keep up with updates about economic integration, and also Indonesia will be able to maximize the benefits of AEC in their economy. It's really good news coming from Indonesia because Indonesia holds one of the largest population in Southeast Asia, and of course especially all these 10 member states are set to face this AEC, ASEAN Economic Community, at the end of this year, inaugurating in the age of the freer movement of goods, services, of course labor across the region. And of course still there are many experts are casting doubts on the actual readiness of Indonesian business and also labor force in welcoming the economic integrations. And accurate and clear communication is, of course, it will be one of the key factors to implement the AEC in Indonesia. And apparently the AEC Center is located within Trade Minister's headquarters in central Jakarta. So the center will provide its consultation services for goods and services provider, and also, of course, as well as the information for the public on the AEC. So not only from Indonesia, but then perhaps all these 10 member states really need to be educated what AEC can bring all about and what can benefit us in Southeast Asia. So we'll take another very short break. When we come back, we'll talk about the news on in the social culture part of Southeast Asia. So stay tuned.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with Grace at ASEAN Dailies. We deliver news from Southeast Asia. So let's talk about a social culture part of Southeast Asia. Apparently, there is a mega Japanese food that opens in Singapore. So Singaporeans love a fair where Japanese cuisine continues to grow. Well, as more there are buyers and consumers, and they bring the freshest produce from the country itself. And this will add one more shopping and also dining place to the list. About $10 million emporium Shokuin at level in one of the Marina Square's new wing. And of course, the 34,000 square feet space, about the size of 28 5-room housing board flats, features an 11,000 square feet garment grocer section, and that includes the tanks filled with the live seafood from Japan directly, and as well as Europe, and with the customized temperatures and humidity control facilities for aged beef, and also wide range of vegetables, fruits, and also condiments as well. So on this project, which was conceptualized in September last year, Mr. Lim, who is the Emporium Shokuhin's chief executive officer, he mentioned, "I didn't want to do another restaurant. I just wanted to sell quality produce at reasonable prices, and what sets us apart is our live seafood and also aged meat options." So for Singaporeans, you will have another sort of option to your shopping list, and this, I hope that they will also adapt to all this Japanese culture, food, and not only food, especially seafood, and also the fruits and other products as well. Well, let's talk about film. How much do you guys love to watch film, but international ones? And what if all those foreign films are banned from the prime time? Well, in a bid to support its local film industry, the government has banned these foreign films being aired on TV at a critical time, which is about 7 to 9 p.m. And that's the prime slot. And of course, this whole move of banning comes after the ministry floated the idea last week in an effort to promote the camp and also the local film industry, and that's happening in Cambodia at the moment. And the Minister of Information, Kyuk Harit, said that the ministry would revoke the license any of stations at that to float the ban. And there have been criticism, of course, over these excessive aiming of foreign-made films on local television stations. So these all TV stations can still play foreign films, but outside of this prime time, 7 to 9 p.m. in Cambodia. And that this new measure will go into effect on November 1st, which will give the television stations time to rearrange this commercial contract with partners, of course. So in Cambodia, if you stay in Cambodia, it's time to support the local film industry, especially when these films will be taking over the prime time. So let's talk about the last news of the day, which is about the English classes which are catching up in Laos. And of course, English has become one of the universal languages around the world. The government in Laos is keen to start children on language classes to boost their ability to converse with others in AAC. Of course, in the small classroom with the concrete walls, and the young teachers can be heard instructing her students to read as she points at her, the chalks and also the pencils at certain English words. So many students still can't read and write Laos, so learning English is not really easy for them. But they're also hoping and think positively towards educating children in English to be able to make them move forward and also further their strength on also English literacy level when it comes to Southeast Asia. Although this could be a good policy, but it's not really easy for many primary schools in Laos to hold these English classes at the moment, as there is a still lack of qualified teachers and teaching materials. So the government really needs to sort of invest and also implement this policy carefully, and to be able to educate the children to be able to learn at this program English classes. So there should be a lot of training session for teachers as well as the parents as well. So that's it for our news for today on Tuesday. Stay tuned for the interview just after short break, perhaps at 10 minutes. We'll be talking about ASEAN youth in general. So do stay tuned with us and find us on our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, as well as visit us during ASEAN.com for more information.